Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Of course, this is an absolute milestone day in this particular incident. We are about to transition on Friday from what has been incident response into re-entry and then ultimately into recovery. But the announcement today is all about the imminent re-entry. And I'm so happy to be joined here this afternoon with the Alberta Minister of Municipal Affairs, Richard Ireland, he will speak in a bit. We're joined by Ethan Thomas, Acting Superintendent of Jasper National Park and representing our partners at the federal government. We've got the Unified Incident Commanders that you've come to know so well. We've got Christine Nadon representing the municipality, Jonathan Lard with Parks Canada representing Unified Command. The Minister and the Incident Commanders will have some words. Acting Superintendent Ethan Thomas is here to answer your questions later, as will I be. I just wanted to let you know that the announcement this morning was purposefully directed as our residents who have shown such patience over the last 22 days, anxious as they are to get back to the community, some to assess their standing structures, others sadly to have a last look perhaps at a lost structure. All of them so anxious to get back home and resume their lives. I invite all of you, and of course all residents, to take a look at the re-entry guide, which is on our website. It is full of vital information that re-entering residents will need to know. So again, I cannot give you all the details, but I will say that that re-entry guide makes, among others, one really significant point. For our returning residents, it is a new normal that they will have to adapt to. We know as humans that we all find comfort in familiar things. Our residents will be looking for familiar faces in familiar places. Some of that familiarity is gone. There will be an adjustment. Our residents will re-enter to what they will have to make as a new normal. They will need time and space to do that. Our announcement this morning, as I said, was purposefully directed at residents. There were questions about visitors. The reality is that we will expect that visitors will understand the need for our residents to have time and space to see their home as it is now. And the reality is that even though our economy is based on visitation, and even though we acknowledge that we will need visitors back in our town to help us with that, right now, the services are not available. As we have warned or advised our own residents, they are returning to a community that cannot provide all of the services that they would expect. Visitors must understand that those same limitations apply to their expectations, and so they must moderate their expectations accordingly. We are focused now on our residents. We understand that our residents need a functioning economy, and it will come, but not Friday. Friday we welcome residents back to the community to assess what they have to work with to rebuild and restart our community. I'm going to invite Minister McIver now to address you, followed by our incident commanders, and then we will be available to take any other questions that you may have. Minister McIver?
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. It's great to be here with with Christine and Jonathan, the incident commanders, and Yvonne from Parks Canada for this important announcement today. I'm pleased. I know this work has taken some time, and we appreciate the patience to whatever extent that's possible to everyone who's been evacuated and displaced from their homes and businesses. On behalf of the Premier and my Cabinet colleagues, I want to extend our sincerest sympathies to all Jasper residents during this difficult time, and especially to those who lost their homes or businesses. I know none of this has been easy, and I hope today's announcement provides some positive and reassuring news for residents. As we heard earlier this morning, Jasper residents may begin returning Friday, August 16th. This is a very welcome step for everybody, but we know this is only the beginning of a lot of work that still needs to happen. The state is contingent on achieving and maintaining re-entry criteria. For example, any changes to fire activity or unplanned changes to critical services could change the situation, but we are strongly in favor of that Friday opening, and happy that that's what residents and businesses can look forward to. And please keep in mind, as we also heard this morning, returning home may not be possible for everybody on Friday, but when you get here, then you will be able to look at your home and make the best steps for you and your families. It will be an emotional and difficult time for many residents returning, especially those who lost their homes to the fires. For anyone needing support during these difficult times, please call 211. It's our 24 hours a day, 7-day-a-week crisis line, and can refer you to community and mental health supports near you. Other Jasper residents may be coming back to homes relatively intact, but may still, for some reason or other, still not be completely suitable for living. All essential services, or some essential services, let me rephrase that, might not be available yet. There might be smoke and water damage that may delay a full return. I only ask for your continued patience during these early days of re-entry. While some services have been restored in the community, many have actually, residents should be prepared to be as self-sufficient as possible, as when you get to your home, it could turn out that the water isn't hooked up yet, the electricity isn't hooked up yet, the gas isn't hooked up yet. Evacuation centers in Edmonton, Calgary, and Grand Prairie will continue to remain open. I'd also like to be clear, this opening date, as the Mayor just said, is not an open invitation for visitors. To be clear, Jasper wants visitors to come when there is a place for those visitors to be entertained and spend their money. That isn't yet. And the town of Jasper will be very good at letting you know when that day comes. Jasperites need the time right now in the space to settle back into their homes. Jasper will be open for business soon, not Friday. The provincial government continues to work closely with the Municipality of Jasper and Parks Canada in developing plans for residents to return to their homes. And let me say, we are very grateful to both the town of Jasper and to Parks Canada for the amazing cooperation and the hard work that they have done. We have in place a recovery task force called the Jasper Alberta Canada Intergovernmental Redevelopment Committee. I can't repeat that 10 times because I wouldn't be able to. That is working collaboratively on recovery plans right now to help restore Jasper as quickly as can be done. Our partners here in Jasper are working to ensure critical services are in place for residents, and they are making great progress. This includes any specific re-entry criteria to guide the steps in the process, such as restoration of the remaining critical services and remediation of various safety concerns necessary for a full resumption of ordinary life. As part of this process, work continues to identify and mitigate hazards in the town site, complete the restoration of local police, EMS, 911 dispatch services, restore critical services like healthcare and utilities, and bring back grocery stores, gas stations, banks, and pharmacies. Before folks can completely return and get back to normal, we need to make sure provincial services are in place for all residents. In particular, health services, schools, court services. Temporary housing must have clear plans in place to ensure the safety and well-being of all residents and visitors. We know healthcare is a critical component to the safety and stability of the community. The Seton Jasper Healthcare Centre remains closed, but work is underway to restore services. And as we heard this morning, emergency services and EMS are scheduled to be open on Friday. Alberta Health Services has also been in close contact with the town of Jasper and working around the clock to determine the best approach for restoring services to all facilities. The priority is bringing emergency department online and developing a staffing plan to support that. At this time, all continuing care residents will be kept in alternative locations until the fire is under control and there is limited risk of residents having to be evacuated again. We know that all residents want to return home as soon as possible. However, the most vulnerable and complex need residents will be invited to return home as soon as their needs can be accommodated. And there are people working actively on that now. We know that many parents have questions about the status of schools and where their children will be attending this next year. I am told there will be a place in a school for every child from Jasper. The obvious question, where that space will be, it will be something be answered by the school board. We know that many parents have questions about the status of individual schools. The health and well-being and safety of students are our top priority. We are working with other school authorities like Hinton and Edson to provide options for Jasper students to attend at the start of this school year. Local school authorities will determine a timeline for when it will be safe for everyone to return to a school in Jasper and provide more information at a future date. For provincial court services, the Alberta Court of Justice in Jasper remains closed at this time. Court matters previously scheduled to be heard at the Jasper Courthouse will be heard in the Hinton Courthouse. The provincial government's working on an intergovernmental redevelopment committee on transition and housing needs. A key focus of our planning has been on the transition and interim housing needs of residents. To better understand and meet the housing needs of residents, the Municipality of Jasper has launched a housing needs assessment survey. If you have not filled out that survey yet, please do. Even if you're told your house is in good condition, we need as much information as possible about what Jasper residents' needs are. That might include needing a place for you and your family to stay. And it might include, and this is where if you have a homeless survey will help, it might include you being able to offer a room or part of your home to other Jasper residents. Unless you fill out the survey, we won't know that. And only after you fill out the survey will we be in the best position to help residents as quickly and as well as possibly can be done. So please fill out the survey. As we move forward, residents return to Jasper. We know the community will need the support of the provincial government, and our government is committed to do that and be there. We'll be working with our counterparts in the federal government, and we appreciate their support and the municipality to rebuild and restore Jasper to its former glory. This will mean solving problems quickly, breaking down bureaucratic barriers, and listening closely to the residents and businesses in Jasper to address all of their needs and concerns. In closing, I'm pleased to see that how much work has gone into today's announcement. It shows a real willingness to work together for the benefit of the people of Jasper. We will continue to work through the Jasper, Alberta, Canada Intergovernmental Redevelopment Committee to ensure Jasper has the help it needs to heal and rebuild. I know it's been a very devastating time for all residents in Jasper and for all Albertans who love Jasper. I would like to thank the countless individuals whose work has gotten us to this point here today. Another thanks to the federal government, Parks Canada, and the town of Jasper, who we're supporting. I encourage Jasperites to tune into our telephone town hall tonight at 6:30 p.m. for a further opportunity to ask questions and hear updates. And I thank you for your time and attention.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. McIver, Mayor Ireland. Following this morning's announcement, I would like to address Jasperites directly to let them know that we've heard you loud and clear that you wanted to return to Jasper as quickly as possible, and we've been working hard since the fire to make that happen. Unfortunately, the status of some of the critical infrastructure on the most affected part of town, the west side, are not at levels that some of you may find desirable to go back to your homes, but a one-stage re-entry for everyone is the most efficient and the best way to get you back to your homes as soon as we can. Again, be sure that you're prepared to be there and go see for yourself what your properties are like. Be prepared to return to a different location to spend the night, as you may not be able to spend the night in your home. And for those of you who are concerned about security of your belongings, please know that the RCMP has a very robust presence in the town, is conducting patrols, and we are looking after that issue very closely. And yeah, this was the easiest way to get everyone back in town. We need you there, we want you there, and that's how we will recover as a community. And hopefully you're prepared and you can work with us on that. There will be a welcome center set up at Commemoration Park where you can get some information on how to re-enter your home safely. Please check our website, read the re-entry guide, and follow us on social media for the most current information. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. I just want to provide a bit of an update on the fire in Jasper National Park. The fire at this time currently remains classified as out of control. However, significant effort has gone into the northwest perimeter of that fire, an area that we feel is the greatest threat to the town and the community there. And at this time, as of this morning's numbers, we can confidently say that that line is 69% controlled and 30% contained. That means that the risk to fire spreading beyond that containment line has almost completely been eliminated. We are continuing to work with agencies across the country. We've got crews from almost every province that have been here or are here right now, and we'll continue to action those priority areas. Residents returning should know that although the evacuation order will be lifted, there will still be an evacuation alert on the town. This is just to reflect the fact that there is an out-of-control wildfire, a large fire, roughly 33,000 hectares, still burning in Jasper National Park, and fire growth is expected in other areas further south and up towards the Moline Valley. Actions are in place right now, ongoing today and every day, to minimize that growth and completely reduce the risk to the community. But we want residents to be aware that they may see smoke. There may be some smoky mornings, some evenings where fire activity increases. We may see needs to close the highway as we did yesterday due to smoky conditions on the highway. So residents should just be aware that that is a possibility, and we'll continue to provide updates as we can. Thank you. I want to just take a moment before your questions to thank certainly the incident commanders for giving you the technical information that you need, that our residents need. I want to thank the Minister particularly for his detailed comments about supports available to our residents. And his detailed remarks simply emphasize and underscore the continuing cooperation that we have enjoyed as a municipality from our friends in the provincial government and from our friends in the federal government. We could not have achieved this milestone day without the degree of collaboration and cooperation that we have seen. So I want to take this opportunity to thank the Minister on behalf of the provincial government for all the assistance that they have given, and of course extend that thanks as well to the federal government, to the acting superintendent Ethan Thomas. And we're a small group, so I won't necessarily ask our information officer to field the questions, but if you have questions for any of us, we will take those now before we have invited you to come with us to Jasper and see for yourself what is there to greet the eyes of our residents on Friday. So, questions, if you please.
Mayor, you obviously know that residents were a bit worried about people coming into Jasper who don't actually live there, and you've said today, let's hold off. Is there a reason there wasn't a more formal process to keep people out, like checking for people's addresses as they come in, or doing something more normal to limit it to just residents?
Thank you for the question. I'm happy to take that, although I will defer as well to the incident commanders who understand the technical limitations to a greater degree than do I. But I will say that one of the nuances of re-entry in Jasper is that nobody has a street address. We have post office box numbers, and whatever they are, but they do not indicate what area of town you might live in. So for us to try and manage residents' entry by section of town is just not a practical solution. I believe there is advice and learnings from other communities who have gone through this that sort of staggered re-entry creates its own problems. So we are focused on our residents. As I said, we will expect visitors to be respectful. Our residents have seen what it might look like to have someone taking their photograph or video to be posted on social media of them confronting the reality of their home. They don't want that. And no one should be clamoring for that opportunity. So while we did not specifically address visitors because that was not our priority, we understand our residents' concern, as I said earlier, for time and space to confront the reality and start the difficult process to accommodate a new norm. As for the technical details, as I said, Christine and or Jonathan can maybe give you more details to the extent they're able.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. The logistics of a re-entry system that would involve checking residents' identities at the gate are very complex and would have delayed the re-entry by a significant amount of time. As Mayor Ireland outlined, most of our IDs show a PO box, so that doesn't really help to determine which area of town you live in, but also we have a large amount of staff that are in Jasper and their permanent address is not in Jasper. So the logistics of that, as well as trying to keep people out, would have been quite complex. As you can appreciate, we have a large wildfire on the landscape. We are spending our efforts restoring utilities and getting our town back to normal, and we chose to do that as opposed to spending a considerable amount of time and effort on a check-in process that would be quite onerous and frankly would have delayed re-entry by at least a week. That's what I meant earlier by when I said that residents told us loud and clear that they want to come back to Jasper. It is safe to come back to Jasper. There are no risks to public safety in the town site. However, the varying conditions of the properties upon their return is what residents should be prepared for.
And then for Mayor McIver, you talked about welcoming visitors back to Jasper when it's time and being open for business when it's time. But a lot of businesses in Jasper are very dependent on tourism, the visitor economy there, and they've already lost a huge chunk of what would be their busiest time of year. So what support and what programs will the province be making available to them to ensure that they don't go under because of this?
Well, that's a discussion that will be ongoing, and as I think we've said from the beginning, for us, the mayor of the town of Jasper will be leading this recovery re-entry effort, and we will be there in support. So as these things crop up as being necessary, we will look for ways to be helpful, be useful, and to help the residents to be successful and the businesses. I think the answer to your question hasn't been entirely written yet, but we will be, and it will be, so many of the cues that we take will be from the actual businesses themselves. And there might be a different, if you got 6 businesses, you might have 6 different answers, and we will do our best to be helpful and useful.
And this is maybe a question for the mayor, but obviously we spoke about tourism and it's essential in Jasper. So how do you balance the need of tourism and residents during this difficult time?
Of course, an absolutely critical question, and that balance is what we are trying to achieve. As they do in in incident command and response, people first. But we understand that returning residents, when they return, will need a functioning economy, and our economy is based on visitation. We are perfectly alive to that need for balance. But realistically, we have what we have, and this re-entry is not to be confused with rehabilitation. We have allowed re-entry, and some will be able to go home, but for many, re-entry will simply be an opportunity to assess either their business or their home or both. Right now, businesses need a chance to get in, see how their business has survived, see how their inventory has survived. Hotels and other accommodation will need staff. They will have to make ready for visitors. We have to get the people back first. The visitor economy is very labor intensive. We cannot restart or initiate without the people there first. We don't know yet who will have homes that works directly in the accommodation industry. We have to get them back before we can look at all at welcoming visitors back. As I said earlier, we understand the need for visitors, and we are anxious to see them because they make our economy function. But we have to make the people first, and that has been our focus. I'm sorry, I missed a bit of that over the traffic noise.
It's obviously been a very difficult 2 days. Yourself also appreciate it. How does it feel to be here today talking about the entry?
Like other residents, I think since the evacuation order was issued 10 p.m. on whatever day in July that was, 22 days ago, I think residents wondered as they were leaving and have wondered every hour of every day since, including every hour of every sleepless night. When will I get to go home? I share that. I share that on their behalf. So many have lost so much. We want to, as early as possible, consistent with safety, to give them every opportunity to fulfill that yearning to be back home. And this is where we have landed, and it is thanks to the Herculean efforts of those in Unified Command and in the Incident Command Center that have brought us to this point. It's the people on the ground, it's service providers, it's our own utility crews, it's everybody who's had this as a goal, get our residents home safe. To me, as I think for many residents, it is an exciting day. It's a milestone day, but that excitement needs to be tempered with the reality that we face. And so it is not, as I've said before, a return to normal. It is an entirely new normal, and people will need time to adjust to that. But we need to give them that opportunity to get back and to see what it is they have left to work with to rebuild their lives and their livelihoods and our community.
Are there specifics about what critical infrastructure was damaged on the west side of town? I'm sorry if I think that maybe has been detailed before, but I did check again.
Yes, so essentially all critical infrastructure has been damaged on the west side of town. And that is the area, so people who live in that zone, which maps are or will be available on our website and social media to specify the affected area, which I've been calling the west side. And essentially I would say the gas infrastructure and the water infrastructure were the most impacted. As you can imagine, as properties burnt and were destroyed, those systems were left exposed, so open. And so for example, we had to go in and crimp all the water pipes at every single house that was destroyed because it was just leaking when the meter burnt, right? So that was the initial stages, but now we're in the stages of restoring services. And in the last couple of days, we've been chlorinating the system, pressurizing the system on the west side of town. We anticipate that some properties in that area will have water, but it will not be potable. Some residences, however, will not have water at all. And the timeline on that is unknown for full service restoration. And gas, gas is also, natural gas is the other infrastructure that will take the longest time to restore. And again, because there's a lot of gaps in exposure, so some holes in the system that ATCO Gas have been working diligently to repair. Electricity is restored to a large extent in that west zone. And telecommunications, a lot of it is wireless, so that also works. But yeah, so that's the status on the west side there. And as you can imagine, like any overhead power lines burnt, any underground infrastructure that connects into foundations was exposed. So that's the work that's ahead for our utilities crews. The north side of town is, everything is running pretty well. So it's really that west side that residents need to be ready for any and all potential outcomes with their critical infrastructure.
And do you have any for time? I just want to get us on that bus so we can get to Jasper. I appreciate all of your questions. Maybe able to answer them once we get to town. I know everyone has to get back to Calgary and Edmonton pretty soon. Is there any outlets that didn't get a chance to ask a question right now?